Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and I am back with some more Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys my Batarian Vanguard build. Now, the Batarian Vanguard recently came out. He is ultra rare, and guess what? You're really not missing much if you haven't got him yet. I think a lot of people are disappointed with the Batarian Vanguard, including myself. I have a lot to say about this guy, so I'm going to wait till the gameplay. But I'm actually going to be doing a solo gold, and that is because I actually wanted more time to speak about this guy, and I just thought, hey, that sounds pretty cool for a change of pace. I do not think that this guy is very platinum viable, and I'll get into all of that later, and there's a couple different builds you can do with this dude, but I'm going to be showing you guys my main build because to me, this build I'm going to be showing you is really his fun build. The other build really isn't fun, and it's not unique at all, and it's kind of boring. But if you wanted to play platinum, you could use the other build. Where this build, it's just really fun, and if you want to actually go on gold or silver or something like that, he can actually do some nice damage, and he can be somewhat fun to play. So, let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, because I am doing a solo run, I'm using siphon guns so I can get my health back. Now, normally, I would probably recommend a bulwark gun because of the damage resistance that you might get. But if you're just roaming around the map and you're away from your teammates, I still say Siphon is probably best for you. If you're sticking with your teammates, Bulwark is definitely the best. Now, one of the big problems with this guy is recharge speed. It is a nightmare. So I recommend the Expert package. Later on, hopefully they'll come out with Structural Economics, which is going to give us 25% recharge speed. Once that comes out, I'm probably going to use that. Now, most people will probably strap on an equipment that is going to allow you to get more melee damage, more shields, or more biotic damage. I personally just like the recharge speed because this guy really needs his shields, and unfortunately, they never come back. Charge is really your only way of getting your shields back, and it's super annoying. Now, the main gun I'm going to be using in the gameplay, actually the only gun I'm using in the gameplay, really is the Equalizer. I love this gun. It's really good. It's a really nice pistol, and it's good for setting up combos. And I have the barrel on it, and of course the melee attachment. I do not use the magazine on this. You really don't need it that much. Now for the boosters, 100% I recommend power efficiency. There is something you can do with this build, because a lot of people might not have a lot of power and efficiency. And if you don't, there is something you can do to not use power efficiency, but it really hurts the build, unfortunately. And if you're not going to use power efficiency, I definitely would recommend probably a strength enhancer. But 100%, I recommend an ammo of some type and a weapon that can set up. And the reason why I do this is because this build can easily get 2 combos very quickly, because you can charge in to detonate that combo from the ammo. Then you can immediately get a biotic combo. So normally that's really good for taking out bigger targets, and it works really well. Alrighty, let's go ahead and talk about this build. Now, this is the fun build. And to me, it's definitely the build you probably want to do because this is the most fun that you can actually have with this guy. You can also probably do other builds with flat cannon, but to me, that just wouldn't be as fun because I did originally do a build where I had Annihilation, flat cannon, and I didn't go for charge at all. And the reason why I did that was because I was farming platinum with him. And I felt like that was definitely a build that would work on platinum. But there are other builds out there that definitely are better for doing that. There's better people with Annihilation. There's better builds with flat cannon. So overall, I definitely just don't recommend that build. If you want to play this guy and have fun though, which if you're going to do that, you definitely want to play on gold, I definitely recommend the Charge Annihilation melee build. Now, if your card is low, which a lot of people are going to have like a level 1 card or a level 2 card, you're going to have to skip something. And here is a big problem because you definitely want to get Charge and Annihilation. And then after that, you have to decide, do you want weapons training or combat fitness? Now, the biggest problem, if you decide to not go for the weapons training, you are going to lose out on melee damage, power damage, and combo damage, which will allow you to kill most enemies with 1 punch. And that is one of the best things. If you lose all those damages, you're probably not going to be able to kill those enemies with 1 hit. But this guy is really squishy. It is his biggest flaw and my main complaint. He dies way too fast. And if you take away the combat fitness, he's going to die even faster. So this is a really hard choice that you're going to have to make if you are going to try to play this build on a low card level. So it's up to you which one you want. But let me go ahead and get into this build because I do have the card maxed out. Well, I have it at rank 12. I saved up a ton of money before he came out, and I just spent it all to try to unlock as many different cards for him as I could, and I got 12 overall, so that was pretty good. Now, let's talk about charge. My recommendation is radius, like always, but at first I wanted to go for force and damage. Now, the reason I wanted to do this is because it's extremely important to stun the target, but for my testing, it makes no difference. This guy does not have enough force on charge to stun a lot of different enemies. Now, most enemies you will stun, but bigger enemies you will not stun, and that is an issue because if you charge into those enemies, they're just going to punch you and interrupt your melee, and it can be extremely annoying. But I do recommend radius overall just because it is better. You can hit multiple targets, and for smaller enemies, you can stun multiple smaller enemies. Now, the next one is going to be weapon and melee. That makes the most sense because this is pretty much a melee build. And finally, Bastion. Now, you do not have to use power efficiency. I already mentioned this. You could go for Shock Trooper, which will help with the recharge speed. But this guy is so squishy, I really don't recommend it. I think that you really want to get Bastion, and unfortunately, you have to use power efficiency consumable if you're going to use Bastion, because the recharge on this is really long. And that is all because of Annihilation. Now, Annihilation will give you a recharge penalty, and that is a problem because it really doesn't have any synergy with charge, unlike with like Lance on the Asari Adept, or even Throw, because Throw has such a low recharge that Annihilation really doesn't affect it too much. But for this, I recommend recharge penalty because you want to lower that as much as you can. Because this is a melee build, you're always going to be extremely close to the enemies. You don't really need radius. And I also recommend Biotic Wind. Now, this might be a little strange because the other one is a debuff, but to me, this is better because, first of all, without the radius, I'm not going to affect as many enemies with the debuff. And with this, I can actually move around a lot faster, and this guy is all about mobility. You want to move because he is really squishy. If you stay in one spot too long, you will die. So you got to constantly keep moving. And the most important thing here, which actually makes this build kind of work for gold and silver and bronze and stuff like that. This really doesn't work on platinum. Vortex is amazing. All the basic enemies, you will lift them up. If there's any shielded targets, once the shield is gone, you will lift them up. It will de-aggro them and allow you to go ahead and punch them. And you can get the combo that way. So, yes, Vortex is actually really good for this build, and I highly recommend it. I don't put any points in a flat cannon. For the weapons training, definitely go for power and melee. It makes the most sense. You want the combo damage because it is nice. And I go for the weapon damage, but I really wouldn't recommend this. I think that getting the combo damage is the most important thing. If your card level is, let's say, 2 or 4 or something like that, my recommendation is to get Charge, Annihilation, Weapons Training to 5 for the combo damage, and then put all of your remaining points into Combat Fitness. Because for this, I go for health and shields, I go for damage resistance while evading, because I'm always evading, and finally hold the line. Now you might think this is a little bit strange, because why not go for melee damage? I mean, he does have melee perks. He's so damn squishy, you have to go ahead and try to make him as beefy as possible, and even if you do all this, and you try to make him super beefy, he is still not that beefy, and he will die really, really quickly. So it is the biggest complaint that I have, but I'll get into all of that in the gameplay because I have a lot to say about this guy. But let's go ahead and get started with the gameplay. Remember, it is a gold solo and it's going to be against the cat. Alrighty guys, well this is going to be the gameplay and I have a lot to say about the Batarian Vanguard. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. I want to talk about the pros and the cons to the Batarian Vanguards. Now for the pros, he's fun to play. And moving on to the cons, I'm just joking, but yeah, that's literally the only good thing that I can kind of say about this guy. This is kind of a fun build. I did not expect that. I am not a big fan of melee builds. I was a little biased before the Batarian Vanguard came out. I was telling everyone that I thought he was probably going to suck, and I also pretty much said that I will probably not like the build, just because I know I do not like melees. Now, I will be honest though. This build is a lot of fun to play, especially on gold. I would not recommend doing this on platinum, of course. Do not do it. You will die and you will be frustrated. But on gold, if you die, okay, you die a couple times.
but you can still have a lot of fun, run around punching stuff and getting explosions. So I will admit that this build is a lot of fun, but that's really the only good thing about it, because everything else is pretty much a fucking con, and that is a real damn shame. They really need to buff this guy and make him a lot better, because as of right now, the main problem with him is that he's too freaking weak. And I don't understand this. I really do not. He is an ultra rare. So there's so many people that will never, and I mean never, be able to play this guy. They will never get him. And if they do get him, they'll have a low card level, like level 1 or 2 for his card, meaning that they will never complete his build. And if you cannot complete this build, it's really not so fucking great. That's really a big problem. You either have to skip your fitness or you have to skip your weapons training, and that is a big freaking problem. If you go for the combat fitness, you can become a little bit more beefy, but the main issue is that you have to skip your combo damage, and you have to skip a lot of power damage, melee damage by doing that, and your melee will probably not kill enemies on gold with one melee, which if you go for the weapons training, you can actually kill most of the enemies with one melee, including the explosion. So it is really nice. But if you do decide to go with the weapons training, well then you have to skip the combat fitness, and this guy is super fucking flimsy even with the combat fitness. So it really doesn't make much of a difference, but it's a problem. This guy should have not have been ultra rare. If he was rare, I would guess I would be okay with it, but in a lot of ways, I feel like he should be uncommon. I mean, I would actually like to get an uncommon. We haven't got an uncommon since the game came out, so why not add an uncommon? And like I said, they could have pretty much justified this guy if he would have been uncommon. The fact that he is ultra rare, it really makes absolutely no sense. He is not unique. That was the argument that they made about ultra rares. It's that they wanted to have ultra rares so that they can be unique. And that means that no one else is like them, or they're going to have something that no one else has. And there's plenty of examples of this. Either you have a power like Avenger Strike on the Angara Avenger, or you can have evasion on the operator, or you have a unique passive like the Angara Exemplar, where he can get more recharge speed and he's all about combos. You can have unique melee weapons like the Krogan Hammer on the Gladiator, or the Asari Sword on the Duelist. Also, the Duelist can blink through walls, so that's unique as well. So there are unique things for every single, and I mean every single ultra rare. Oh, I forgot about the Human Kineticus. You have that build, which of course has unique passives. So everyone has something unique. This guy has nothing unique about him. He has a bunch of powers that other builds have, and the other builds can actually utilize those powers better. Annihilation is better on the Gladiator and on the Asari Adept. Flat Cannon is better on the Havoc. It's better on the Krogan Mercenary. It is better on the Scrapper 1000%. He has Charge, which is of course going to be better on the Krogan Vanguard, on the Human Vanguard. Even on the Duelist is probably better. So that is really my biggest problem with this guy. Now, if you talk about things that are somewhat unique, you could argue, well, wait a minute. He can detonate explosions with his melee. His melee is the Batarian Gauntlet. Well, yes, that's true. But guess what? It's not totally unique. No one else has the hammer or the sword. Only the Duelist and only the Gladiator has those melee weapons. We also have a rare, which is the Scrapper. And honestly, looking back at it now, the Scrapper should have been ultra rare, and this guy should have been rare. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Right now, the Scrapper is top tier, one of the best in the entire game, maybe even the best. Super fucking good class. This guy is like in bronze tier, maybe silver tier in my opinion. So he's not very good, and you cannot compare him to the Scrapper. But the main thing is that the Scrapper also has the melee weapon. He can also do this whole detonating combos with his melee thing. So it is not unique. This guy needed to have a unique passive or something, a unique power. I don't know. Now, if they were going to do a passive, because this is what I've been thinking of, how to make this guy better. Now, they'll never do this, but if they were to do this, I think it would be pretty awesome. Give him a unique fitness tree. No one else has a unique fitness tree. And have like unique things revolving around melee. So if you get a melee kill, you get some bonuses or something. I was thinking of a perk that would be awesome. What if like one of the final perks, you have a choice between option A or B, and both of the options are really good, But one of the options could actually be something really cool, like every time you kill an enemy with your melee, you restore all your shields. That could justify for why he has such low shields, because that is the biggest problem. His base shields are so low. This guy right now is the Krogan Gladiator 2.0, because when the game first came out, the Krogan Gladiator really fucking sucked. I did not like the Krogan Gladiator at all. The Krogan Gladiator right now is 1,000 times better. The biggest problem with the Gladiator, first of all, it's a Krogan. I mean, come the fuck on. This thing is meant to be beefy as fuck. And it had no shields, and that was really fucking stupid that it had like super low shields, like 100 and something shields. And it would just fucking die so fast. So they actually went in there, they changed the rage tree, they buffed the health and shields on the Gladiator. And now, guess what? The build is really beefy, and it's actually a lot more fun to play. And you can get away with doing your melee build or whatever build you're doing on the Gladiator. That was a good thing. Now, they decided to come out with another ultra rare, the Batarian freaking Vanguard. And guess what? The Batarian is the second most beefy alien out of all the aliens. If you just look at Mass Effect 3, the Krogans were always the beefiest, and the Batarians were always the second most beefiest. So why the fuck are they not beefy in this? Or why is this guy so fucking flimsy? He's like fucking tissue paper. But because he's actually kind of shit, he's more like toilet paper. That is a fucking problem. And I really want them to buff the fuck out of his health and his shields. He should have like 1,000 health. Now I'm talking about once you get the upgrades. Maybe not the base. But once you actually have all the upgrades, his health should be like 1,000 and his shields should be like 600. Right now, his max shields is like 270. That's with every upgrade. I believe the starting shields is like 180. That is nothing. You will lose your shield so quick. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute. The Krogan Vanguard is really good, and the Krogan Vanguard has low shields. That's true. But the Krogan Vanguard is a fucking Krogan. He has health regeneration. If you have a siphon gun on that build, you really can constantly have all your health. It's super easy. He gets damage resistance. There's a lot of good things going for him. The shield is not too much of a problem. Yeah, you lose your shield on the Krogan Vanguard a lot, but because of your melee and because of other factors, it's not an issue. One of the big issues with this guy, if you play the melee build, the melee is pretty slow. So what that means is that you might charge in to a group of enemies, you try to get off your melee, and you can't because they will just punch you. That's something that happens all the time. You go for a melee, you get interrupted. The fact that his melees can be interrupted is incredibly annoying. Try interrupting the fucking Krogan Vanguard. It's possible, I would assume, but that headbutt is so fast that it really doesn't matter. Oh, you interrupted him, you can just headbutt again, and you can just run around headbutting everything. Now, of course, the Krogan Vanguard cannot freaking get a combo off of that, so I'm okay with the fact that his melee is slow. That's really not a problem. But the problem is his health and shields. The fact that he's so freaking weak that if you're not mobile, like the way I play this build, I'm constantly trying to move around and get out of danger because I know that in a split second, I can be totally obliterated by the enemies. This guy has no shields. They will take my shield down really quickly. Once it's down, it's not coming back until I charge. It takes like at least 4, maybe 5 seconds for your shields to start to regen on this freaking build. It's super annoying. There's no delay reduction. So, charge is your best option. But guess what? There's really not good synergy with this build because Annihilation will fuck with your recharge speed, meaning that you're not able to charge as much, so you're constantly without shields. You're constantly taking health damage. You don't have like a ridiculous amount of health to survive. You have no damage resistance besides from charge. This is a big problem. They really need to address this. I would love it if they could do a unique fitness, give them a bunch of damage resistance, have it almost like, I don't know, the Human Kineticus. If you get so many kills or every kill you get, you can stack up like damage resistance, and as long as you keep getting melee kills, you can keep it almost like a rage. I don't know, like a Batarian rage would be fucking epic, and it would make this class special. Right now, this class is only special because on paper, it looks kind of awesome. You're like, dude, Annihilation and Charge, that's awesome. But Charge doesn't detonate the combos. If Charge did, then yeah, that would also be really good. Like that could potentially make up for some of these problems just because that would be kind of powerful, especially if you are able to kind of just sit back and chill And every time like a big group of enemies come to you, or anytime that you charge into a big group of enemies, you can get like 5 or 6 explosions. That is something that you could actually do with charge, because charge can actually detonate multiple explosions if you go for radius. So if there's like 5 enemies, then you could charge in, detonate like 5 explosions. All of them are stunned, which gives you time to then melee. But honestly, the detonating with the gauntlet thing wouldn't really matter at that point, because what would happen is you wouldn't be able to detonate with your gauntlet unless you are just running around and punching things. That's normally how I like to play the build. I don't charge until I actually really need to. If I charge too early, then I won't have it when I need it. And you need it a lot, because you're going to lose all your shields and you'll start taking a lot of health damage. And yeah, dude, you will get freaking destroyed if you're not careful. So you really do have to play like cautious, and you really need to move around. That's why the biotic wind is nice. And I do enjoy the build though. I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy here. I'm just like really kind of salty that this guy is ultra rare. I just feel like he should not be ultra rare. I was mad that they released another ultra rare. Like, I do not like any of the character cards to be ultra rare. I just don't see the point. Now, I guess you could argue that the unique ones, okay, they're unique, but I mean, come on now, like, fuck. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's the reality of it. Like, I don't care if they're unique. They should just all be unique. And a lot of the builds in this game that are common are pretty unique. Who the fuck else has Cryo Beam? Nobody. So if your standard is just a power that no one else has, well, fuck, the Human Engineer is fucking a ultra rare then. I don't know. Nobody has Cryo Beam, and I don't think anyone's gonna get it. So you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things like that where you don't fucking see these powers on other builds, and it doesn't really make them need to be super rare to the point where a lot of people won't ever get them, and the people who do will have them at low card levels and stuff. The only reason that I have all the stuff I have is because I'm a huge fucking nerd and I played this game way too fucking much. I just know that like a lot of people might look at like a Batarian Vanguard and say, man, that would be fun to play with, and they never get the chance to do it. And that's a bunch of horse shit, in my opinion. I just don't like that, like, notion in this game. Same with the weapons, too, I guess. But at least with the weapons, you can make points. As long as there's good, rare weapons, then whatever. Ultra rare, you can have them. I don't care. Because the whole concept is about making more money through microtransactions. That's the only reason why we have ultra rares to begin with. I mean, maybe we would still have them even without the microtransactions. But the microtransactions definitely play a big part in what they decide. And unfortunately, with this last like little update we got not only the Batarian Vanguard, which was ultra rare, we got a new shotgun, which is actually a pretty good gun, I gotta be honest. I do like that gun. But we got a new shotgun that is ultra rare. So I mean, what the fuck, right? Like, so now, when you really think about it, we actually got 60 cards, because there is going to be 10 levels to the new shotgun, and then there's 10 levels to the 3 different versions. That's 40. Plus 20 levels to the Batarian. So that means that you're going to have to basically unlock 60 more N7s just from this last little update where we got 2 new N7s. So when you see 2 new N7s, it actually means like 60 more N7s that you're going to have to unlock. That's so ridiculous, guys. Like, that's so crazy. The grind is so fucking real in this game. This is a problem. I really do feel this way. But I really do want them to buff the Vanguard. Now, you might be watching this and you're like, well, it looks pretty good. Well, that's the point. I was trying so hard, guys, to make this look good and not die. And guess what? I was pretty successful in not dying, and I was really proud of myself for that. But it was not easy, okay? It was not easy at all to actually not die on this guy. There was plenty of times where I did. There was a lot of times where I was trying to solo gold, and I was getting really unlucky. It was so stupid. I was about to rage quit. And that is because every time I was trying to do my solo, what would always happen is I was getting a hack or a fucking upload on wave 3. It happened to me so many times, and I was so frustrated by that. But I actually cut out wave 1, because in this game, wave 1 was so sloppy. So I went ahead and just chose another wave 1 that I thought was better to show off. Because the point of these videos is to show what the build can do and why is it good or why is it bad. And like I said, I can tell you why it's bad. It's because it's super flimsy and you can die. And it's really, really ridiculous because he's a fucking Batarian, but yet you feel like a goddamn Volus Vanguard. This guy feels like a fucking Volus Vanguard, and I'm so serious by that. I mean, come the fuck on now. But anyway, the point is that in wave 1, I cut that out from this game. I added another one in, and the rest of the game is unedited. You can see that. And I do like the concept of the build, I guess, although I do feel like the synergy is not there, because when you have charge, which doesn't synergize with annihilation, you're not going to detonate combos with charge and annihilation. We all know this. But besides that, you add all this extra recharge speed to a build that has no delay. So that means that your shields are never going to just naturally come back really quickly. You actually have to wait like 4 to 5 seconds for your shields to start coming back, which means that you have to rely heavily on your charge, which means you're going to have to use a bunch of consumables. That's another problem with the build. I didn't really talk about it much, but I really do feel like to make this build work, you want Bastion, and that means you do not want Shock Trooper. So you're missing out on the recharge speed. And unfortunately, you will have to use power and efficiency to really not die, because every couple seconds you're losing your shields in literally a fucking blink of an eye. Like, you can be just chilling and all of a sudden, boom, all your shields are gone. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? I literally got shot twice. Like, nothing hit me. Like, a fucking basic enemy shot me with 2 bullets, and now I have absolutely no shields. It's such a disappointment, guys. The fact that this guy is not beefy, maybe if he had fortified, things could be a little bit better. I don't know, but he definitely needs to have his health and his shields buffed, because as of right now, your shields go down super quick, and once your shields are down, your health is dropping. A siphon gun can help, but it probably won't save you. Your health drops really quick too, and you have this long recharge speed. It's a freaking nightmare just overall. Trying to stay alive, trying to actually play effectively with this build is frustrating. That's the real key word here, frustrating. You're playing this guy and you are frustrated. Although there are moments that are really fun, I will admit, this build can be very fun. The vast majority of the time, you can get very frustrated because you're dying so easily and you feel like a goddamn Volus instead of a beefy fucking Batarian, which is what we all thought this guy would have been. It's pretty disappointing. I really wish they would have had the passive skill or something unique about him to make him really beefy or to make him just super good and effective at melee. But I don't know, guys. I mean, you can kind of judge for yourself from the gameplay. I'm sure he looks pretty fun. He looks good. But you have to trust me on the fact that he's very frustrating to play. You're going to die a lot. I cannot recommend him for Platinum because you'll die way too fast on that, and it will just be a burden to your teammates. He's definitely more effective on Gold, and I would probably enjoy him a lot more on Silver, so I don't really like playing Gold with this guy. I mean, it's a goddamn fucking mess, and he's ultra rare. I mean, what the fuck, BioWare? What were you thinking? You should have definitely thought about this guy a little bit more before making him ultra rare. I don't know, guys. If you do not have the Batarian Vanguard right now, you're not really missing out. Don't feel bad. I know a lot of people always feel bad about not having certain N7 classes. If you don't have the Operator, if you don't have the Angara Avenger or something, a lot of people feel bad about that. But guess what? When it comes to this guy, don't feel bad. You're not really missing nothing right now. Hopefully in the future when they buff him, he will be really great and everybody will fucking enjoy him. But they might not buff him. And the reason why is because the studio is down now. So I don't know how much more work they're going to put into this to actually change things. I hope they will, but they might not. And it's really disappointing. Alrighty, guys. So that's going to pretty much do it for the video. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe for future videos. And I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day. And peace out.